You are now listening to the Surfside Pay-Per-Click Advertising Podcast.
All right, what's up, everybody? So welcome to episode 6 of the Surfside PPC Advertising Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Corey Frankowski, and today I want to go over everything I can about programmatic advertising and how it relates to PPC. Definitely some strong correlations to PPC. It's basically the biggest. I'd say it's the biggest thing to hit digital marketing in years, in my opinion. I'd say so. Probably in about 2014, programmatic advertising actually started to outpace spending for your traditional display advertising and some of your other advertising methods, because advertisers were able to see basically how effective this was. So that's why I want to go over it. You might already be using it. You might already be familiar with it. If you're an advanced advertiser, you definitely should be using it, I'd say, for sure. But there's a lot of different examples of it and different basic ways of going over it. So I want to go over programmatic advertising. If you think you know everything about it already, this might be a complete waste of time for you, but I am going to go over some little detailed things that you might not know about, where programmatic advertising really comes in handy. So before we begin, the best way you could support this podcast is basically to subscribe and leave a review. If you don't like the podcast, if there's something you're looking for differently, please shoot me an email, Corey@surfsideppc.com. Would love to hear from you. So basically what the podcast, we've kind of gone back and forth about what we want to do here. So it's going to end up just being an informational podcast, and where the news will come in is it's going to intersect with the information. So we don't just want to report on news. That was kind of our initial plan, was just to report on news, but we're going to actually be going over basically lessons in our weekly podcasts, and we want to incorporate news where it makes the most sense. So so let's get into programmatic advertising. So basically I'm just going to go through the who, what, when, where, why, how type deal of this. So to begin, what is programmatic advertising? So basically what it is a way for advertisers to basically let machines use the data they already have to automatically bid for basically their key performance indicators. So instead of, in the past, let's use the example of display advertising. So let's say in the past you say, okay, you know what, I want to put my ad on these 100 websites, and I want to bid $2 per click, and I want my ad shown all over these websites. And basically what I'm doing is I'm bidding $2 per click. I want this traffic to come in, and what I'm going to do is monitor my traffic into Google Analytics, and I'm going to see what the results are, see how many conversions I'm driving in AdWords. So that was kind of how you did display advertising for years. You just picked a bunch of websites or interests or topics or keywords and you targeted. And now with programmatic advertising, it's basically the next step of that. So with programmatic, in the same sense, is you would pick 100 websites and you'd let it run, let's say for 30 days. So you let it run for 30 days, you collect all this data, you have, you figure out that, hey, these 10 websites are really driving conversions for us. These other 3 websites have a lot of opportunity. Here's another 20 websites that are a big waste of money. And, and you basically start to narrow down this list. So now instead of you doing this manually, what you would do is, and let's imagine you're in Google AdWords here, you would go into Google AdWords and you would basically say, it's called Conversion Optimizer, what you use, or Target CPA bidding. And basically what you say is, okay, I want you to use the data from the last 30 days. I want you to use my conversion data history, how much I'm paying per conversion, and I want you to use that information to bid on these websites based on the data you already know, based on the user data you already have collected, to maximize the number of conversions I have. So basically what programmatic advertising is a way for advertisers to use the data that they've already collected in their advertising campaigns, match that with the data that Google AdWords has in their backend, and basically use all of that together to maximize your marketing results. So instead of you saying, you know what, I want to bid for traffic every day and maybe I'll drive some conversions, you're saying, I want to bid for conversions all day, and in the meantime, I'm going to drive some traffic. So basically, traffic to you becomes not important at all. And that's how it should be. What's important to you are your key performance indicators and your conversions. Traffic is not important. Traffic, in the sense is important, but saying, would you rather double your traffic or double your conversions? The answer is easy, in my opinion. So that's basically what programmatic advertising is. And now getting into how it works. So basically, it's a lot of data collection. And the other thing where basically companies have been able to keep improving this, with companies like Facebook, companies like Google AdWords and Bing Ads, some of the different options that you have there, they've been able to improve because they collect so much back-end data about their users that they can see where they are in the buying process, what their interests are, how avid they are as an online shopper, how often they convert. If someone clicks on ads regularly and converts regularly, Facebook wants to continue to send their ad out to that person because that person is extremely valuable to Facebook. That person's extremely valuable to the company that's bidding on them. So programmatic advertising works by using the advertiser data that they already have. So no matter what you're targeting, if you're targeting 10,000 keywords in a Google AdWords campaign, if you're targeting 20 interests in a Facebook advertising campaign, if you're targeting, like we said before, 100 websites in a display advertising campaign, after you start to collect some data and you start to collect, spend all this money and you get in your results, your clicks, your impressions, your click-through rate, your cost per click, and then, the most important thing is your conversions and your cost per conversion. As you get this data, Google AdWords is able to basically, put you into, hey, here's the category of websites that's the most valuable for you. Here's a category of websites that might be somewhat valuable, and here's the category of websites that we're going to exclude because it's basically wasting you money. And it's a huge, huge advancement in advertising because in the past, we used to all do this by ourselves. You sit in Google Analytics, you pull out the reports, and you pull out every little detail of, okay, well, people are converting more on Wednesday, and females are converting more than men. And the age bracket of, 25 to 34 is converting more than the age bracket of 45 to 54. So we're going to adjust our bids accordingly like this. So with programmatic advertising, they're taking all that data, demographic data as far as, gender, age, all these different things, geographic data, where are you located, day of the week, what device are you using, what keyword did you type in, all these different things, and they're taking into account. And as an advertiser, and as I'm talking about this, your head's probably spinning because you realize there's so many different things to look at. There's so many different things to look at that it's so difficult. So programmatic advertising works by collecting all this different data and basically putting into categories, hey, this is optimal, and hey, this is not optimal. And then maybe you have a middle category of opportunity. And that's basically how it works. So, the other kind of lever that's pulling there is the back-end data that Google AdWords already has about everybody. So, I have a Gmail account. I use it regularly. It's connected to my phone. It's connected to my desktop. So Gmail knows that, I enjoy investing. I enjoy marketing. I enjoy sports. I enjoy football. All these different things that that Google knows that I enjoy because that's what I do when I'm online. They might say, hey, this guy's not huge into politics. This guy's not huge into, gardening, and he likes to cook. So there's different things there where they know what you're already interested in. So when I go and search, best new baseball cleats or something, they kind of have an idea of what I'm interested in, what I'm looking for, how I usually convert, the websites I use. So they use all of that data to basically give advertisers an optimal solution when they're spending their money. And they combine that data with the data that they already have for that advertiser. So that's basically what programmatic advertising is and how it works. A lot of data collection and then using that data to basically create optimal campaigns and combine all of the data so that you're targeting the person that's going to convert rather than, the person that's not going to convert. So the next thing I have basically is why should I use programmatic advertising? You might have already answered this yourself. As you're kind of listening to this, you realize that there's huge value in this. It's something where when it first started to hit the scenes, I'd say 2014 and started to grow in 2015, it's something where we got a lot of contacts where I was working at the time saying, we need programmatic advertising right away. Do you guys have that capability? And since we knew, how to do that stuff, we were able to quickly sign up some different clients and get them involved in it. So why you should use it is pretty simple. It takes basically all the data that you're looking for that might take you 3 hours to go through, and it automatically optimizes for you. So you can still, your job becomes more about testing different things and continuing to test and continuing to challenge these different advertising networks and adding different targeting methods to see where you have opportunity. You might waste some money, and the whole thing with advertising is testing I don't see as a waste of money, because you need to test things. I've tested things that have failed miserably, and I've tested things that have basically given us huge results and have, helped us meet our goals for the year. So you really need to constantly test. And with programmatic advertising, what changes is that instead of you having, 7,000 keywords, 20 different campaigns, 1,000 ad groups, all these different things. Let's say you have all these different things you're trying to manage. Instead of trying to manage all of those things, it's much easier for you to just say, hey, you know what? I can just kind of flip a switch and use my historical conversion data and then continue to test alongside of that. So why you should use it is because, these channels where you're able to do programmatic advertising are able to basically optimize things for you. So you don't have to worry about looking at every little detail of everything. You're able to spend your time elsewhere, and you're able to spend your time more in the nitty gritty of the account in terms of testing. Try different ad extensions, upload more ad extensions, make sure you have ad group level ad extensions, split test your ads. So all these different things that you're able to do that you might not have been doing because you're spending so much time trying to optimize campaigns. And that's basically where programmatic advertising comes so much in handy. And the other reason that you want to use it is, so let's say you start a new campaign in Google AdWords. The way their programmatic advertising system works, and I'm going to get into that a little bit more in the next, basically in the next question, but the way their programmatic advertising works is that you need some data before you can start using it. So their minimum is you need to drive 15 conversions per 30 days for them to help you basically bid for conversions, to basically use programmatic advertising. So the way that it's going to help you and why you should use it is, let's say in your first 30 days, you drive 20 conversions at $20 per conversion. Without going up in budget, the following month, you might be able to drive 40 conversions this time at $10 per conversion, because Google AdWords is able to say, what, these 5 keywords they suck, get them out. And these 5 keywords, we're going to put all of our budget behind these 5 keywords that are driving conversions at $10 a piece. And that's basically where you continue to improve. And that's why you should use programmatic advertising, is because, and if you listen to one of our old episodes, we went over benchmarking. Programmatic advertising helps you use benchmarking and continue to improve what you're doing. Basically what they do is they create benchmarks for you. They say, hey, in the last 30 days, your cost per acquisition, your cost per conversion was $20. We see an opportunity where we can get it down to 10. So let's, basically start programmatic advertising, and we'll see if we can get it down. I've gotten things from 5 down to 1. And I had a client with a pretty easy conversion, basically just a link click out. And when I started, I was at $5 per click out, and they wanted to be at about $3 per click out. And, after a course of a couple months, we were able to get it down to about $1 per click out. And basically it was just by using programmatic advertising features that were available through Google AdWords. Okay, so now the last and final question that you have is, where can I use programmatic advertising? So this is kind of one of those questions that people have a lot, because when you hear the word programmatic advertising, the first thought is usually, I'm going to have to write some code, I'm going to have to build some custom software, some custom programs to figure out how to basically create my own programmatic advertising features, and how do I offer that to clients that are contacting me on a regular basis when everyone else is offering it. Luckily, it doesn't work that way. How it works is there's channels, Google AdWords, there's channels, Facebook ads, there's channels, Bing ads, Twitter ads, and what they're doing is they use your historical data to help you maximize your marketing results, to help you get the most out of your budget, to get the most out of your money. So it's not that you have to write these custom programs or custom software to set it up. It's more a matter of you setting up different campaigns, testing different targeting methods, and where your new challenge comes into handy is with the 10,000 different options you have in terms of ad formats, ad targeting, and where you're sending your traffic, your landing pages, how your whole conversion setup is. Every little detail like that, that's where you can improve. So basically conversion rate optimization becomes more of your challenge than trying to do the correct targeting and trying to pull the correct levers at all time while you're running your marketing campaigns. So now you create large marketing campaigns, you let them run for a little bit, you set up programmatic advertising features to optimize for your conversion, whether that's sales, whether that's leads, whether that's a page view, whether that's a click out, no matter what it is, you're optimizing for your key performance indicator, and you're telling Google AdWords, Facebook ads, whatever channel you're using, to use the historical data that they already have and to use the numbers they already have to keep optimizing your campaigns. And then you improve by continuing to add new things into the mix. So you split test ads into Google AdWords, maybe you go from $10 per conversion down to $9.50 per conversion. And that's just something that you constantly have to test and tweak and figure out as you go. So where you're using programmatic advertising is on all these different channels where those capabilities exist. Now, I've used programmatic advertising, and I'll give an example. There's a company I worked with called iView Digital, and they ran video advertising online in different cities up north. And the company that I was working for at the time wanted to run ads based around weather. So this is another example of programmatic advertising here. So how it worked was they could basically tell when the weather went below 30 degrees in different cities, and an ad would run showing sunny skies down south. So that when it was freezing cold out and people were coming inside angry, upset, they're on their computer, they're freezing cold, they're bundled up, they see this ad for a beautiful beach community, beautiful sun, and when you're sitting there and you're freezing cold, and the temperature drops below 30 degrees, you see an ad for a 70-degree beach, it becomes like paradise. It becomes what you want. So it makes people think about it more. Whereas if it's 60 degrees out and only 70 degrees at the beach, you might be having a beautiful spring day and not care about going to the beach and getting out of that crappy weather, whereas a huge snowstorm might make you book that trip today. So that's another example where programmatic advertising comes into play. You can do all sorts of different things like that. And when it comes to where you do programmatic advertising, it's really through these different advertising networks and advertising channels that offer them to you. So that's, Google AdWords, Bing Ads, all these different things. And you might be thinking, well, how do I get started? The way to really get started is to get your campaigns going. Facebook's one of the few where you can just get started right away and they'll automatically start bidding for conversions. With Google AdWords, you have to collect some data to begin with. So that's where a lot of advertisers get hung up because they either don't have the budget to drive 15 conversions per month or they don't have the knowledge and the expertise. So that's kind of where there is some pain points with programmatic advertising. Otherwise, get started right away, get your conversion set up, get your key performance indicator set up, whatever it is you're optimizing for. The quicker you get started and the more that data that they can collect, you might even want to spend a little bit additional to begin with. This is why I kind of have an issue with advertisers or companies that call me and say, I need a profitable campaign in the first month, because sometimes it takes a month or two to really, sometimes it takes 3 to 4 months to basically create something profitable, but it's just the testing process that you have to go through. You might find that Twitter's profitable, but Pinterest isn't. You might find that Facebook's profitable, but Google AdWords isn't. And I've had that before with different clients. So it's all about testing. It's all about collecting data, and programmatic advertising is the next step for advertisers. And it's not a new concept. It's fairly new in the past several years, but it's not a brand new concept. And if you're not using it, you need to get started with it right away. And Google AdWords, make sure you're optimizing for conversions, collecting data, and driving them as much as you can. So that's the show today. That's our entire podcast. If you have any questions, any concerns, make sure you reach out and email us. As always, the best way to support us is to subscribe and leave a positive review. That would absolutely help us big time. So thanks for joining me today. This is episode 6 of the Surfside PPC Advertising Podcast.
Thanks so much for listening to the Surfside Pay-Per-Click Advertising Podcast. We'll catch you next time.